All right, we are live. Jeez, it's StreamYard, man. I got two machines up, right? So I could see stuff here and stuff there. And so I start the machine or start the broadcast on one machine, and I'm looking to see if I got the high sign. And the high sign is on one machine, but not on the other. So it's like, what the hell's going on? Anyway, didn't really mean to go off on that tangent, but hey, I'm Brent Leary. And despite whatever's going on with these things here, I'm here for a few good minutes. I'm here for a few great minutes. I love doing these things. I get a chance to talk to really smart people, and most of the times they have some really interesting things to say. Sometimes, no, I'm just kidding. They always do. But this one's going to be good. But before we bring that out, I wanted to kind of set the stage a little bit here because, we're a little over the halfway point through the year. I think I've been to about 13 conferences so far this year. We get the little summer break before we head into the fall conference season. So I've been kind of mulling over some of the things that I've seen over the past 6 months going to events. And we've also had a couple of other PPN shows kind of doing the same thing. And we're always kind of seeing, well, how is the evolution of all the Gen AI talk and activity, how is it progressing throughout the conference season? So just yesterday, I played this little clip from the Crunch episode that had Dave Smith and his guest, Craig Durr, kind of talking about it because they go to a lot of events too. And I wanted to play this very short clip of one of the things that they said stood out to them because it really stands out to me as well. So here's just a short clip of their conversation.
To the early spring, a lot of the practical AI stuff that I saw, how do you help agents in the contact center space, and how do you also help customers within that same space as well? So it was like that sort of agent to customer workflow was pretty big in terms of AI announcements.
Totally agree with that. I would say most, if not all of them, really tackled the Gen AI conversation from that agent, customer service, customer experience kind of angle, and I think it's rightfully so because it's, I think, one of the quickest areas you can see some impact, get some effect, and actually improve the experience not only of the customer but hopefully of the employee as well. So like that, I totally agree with it. And then recently, the venerable Paul Greenberg and I were at an event down in Miami, the Creatio No Code Days event, and we had a chance to talk to their chief sales officer, and we posed a question to him about, how is sales easier now than it was a decade ago? We got all these Gen AI tools, we got all this stuff. Is it easier now? And this is what he said about sales.
Easier to be a salesperson today than it was 10 years ago. SaaS allowed for this scaling down of what problem you're solving while allowing you to scale up faster. And it changed the sales model to being a hybrid of sales and customer success, because it's about how do I land and expand through this trial and buy model with a lot less people and a lot more driven from the engine. And in that model, yes, I would argue it is, right? Because that sales professional does not have nearly as much to learn about the product sets. They're not as deep and wide, and they don't have to have the same level of business acumen. And I'm not saying this disparagingly to them. I'm just saying there are paths in the sales careers that can be much, much easier or straightforward in that sense.
So he was talking about it, and it kind of makes sense. The technology, including Gen AI generally, is shaping the way sales is done. It's being done differently, and it feels like the more and more we move into the Gen AI era of sorts, you're seeing that impact sales. So we talked a little bit about the service side and how a lot of the conversation this year has been driven around use cases, agent customer kind of workflows. He talked a little bit about it from the sales perspective. And so this is why I'm really excited today, because we get to talk a little bit about it from a commerce perspective. And, next week is Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day. And this is, to me, this is going to be like, we're a year and a half in. So this is going to be like the first real potentially Gen AI impacting Prime Day, big event before we head into the holiday season this year. So I am very happy to have joining me right now, Mike Cain. And Mike, first of all, thank you for making time to do this.
Thanks for having me, Brent. Great to be here.
So I want to make sure I get your title right. Senior Director of Product Management for Commerce Cloud for AI for Salesforce, right?
That is correct.
All right. So before we even get into this, I got to tell you, you did something, or it was something that that you are a part of, or it's really you that really caught my attention because I do all these promotional things for the show, like I create these images and things, and I got to tell you, your headshot, dude, this is like probably the best headshot I've ever had to work with for doing all these images that I do for all these shows. I mean, first of all, I showed this to somebody and they were like, is he like a movie star or something? Because I mean, I'm telling you, man, it was very professionally done. You got the look. The thing that made it really stand out to me, it was the position they had you in, because it makes it look so good in the frame there. So I was like, dude, I got to get whoever did your headshot, man, kudos to them and kudos to you for picking it. So thank you for making my job easier and look good at the same time.
Hey, it's making me look good, but it's also entirely representative of where generative AI is right now, because I got 30 of those. About 26 were questionable, and some were probably some of the worst photo editing I've ever seen. For those that know me, two things stand out. One, I never look that good. Two, I'm wearing a tie. I never wear a tie. I mean, you've seen me at conferences, right? So, like, great for LinkedIn, great refresh from, I think, the one that I had that was 10 years old. And I'll take it, but it was mixed with some results there for sure.
Nice. So you were actually wearing a tie, or was there one generative artificially put in there?
It was all generated artificially. So I uploaded, I think, like 10 photos, and then it spit out 30 that I could pick from.
All right. So right now we know the Gen AI stuff is definitely good for stuff like that. Okay. So.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, I think, we're in such an embryonic stage for Gen AI that there's so much promise, so much excitement, but it's not to, hide the fact that it's not perfect, right? And I think that experience really highlights that.
All right. So as I was mentioning, I've gone to a lot of events this year. A lot of the focus has been on, when it comes to Gen AI in the enterprise, a lot of it has been, you got the marketing stuff, of course, like the generating of content, like you were just talking about. But a lot of the enterprise has really been focused on kind of the agent experience, the customer experience, either from a self-service perspective or from, the agent customer interaction, and how can you help the agent provide a better interaction when the customer needs more than self-service help. So it's a lot of that, not as much on the sales side, but having the conversation I had recently, you're seeing how sales is already starting to be impacted, and you could see, how it will be impacted, as Andy Zambito pointed out in that video, less time to do the same amount of stuff, and you're gonna, you have to figure out a way to speed things up and still do what needs to be done. But I am really interested in, what's going on with commerce, and particularly, we have Amazon Prime Day coming up. That's usually a pretty big day to begin with, but I'm just curious, and I know you have a lot of customers that are using Salesforce's platform to handle their commerce activities. What kinds of things should we be thinking about, or should we be looking out for, or folks who are selling, what should they be trying to take advantage of right now when it comes to Gen AI and commerce as we head into these big events?
I think the biggest thing is understanding what's the actual value and what can the persona or user do. I mean, there's so much hype, there's so much flash, and a lot of different things. But I think it really comes down to just asking the basic question of, what can this tool do for this persona, right? So when we talk about commerce, one of the biggest things that we're gravitating to is how can we take that in-store experience and bring it into the digital realm so that when I don't know what I'm looking for, or even like attempt to think about what are the right products for me for a trip or a new hobby, I can get that from one of these LLM and digital agent based experiences. I think that's the first place that I would start it, right? How are you going to help my customers be able to guide and get the right products that are relevant for them? And ultimately, how is this going to translate to value for me as an organization? How am I going to make more revenue? How am I going to raise my average order value? Those are the types of things that I think are really important when you're having conversations with both vendors and customers, because ultimately, commerce is measured by the impact it's making revenue wise. So everything ultimately should get to that as part of a conversation. Now, on the merchandiser side, most customers I'm talking to are focused on how can I augment my users? My merchandisers know my business. They understand how to attract and retain shoppers. But what they're really looking for is productivity gains. How can I let them do the high value, highly repetitive things like content generation, whether that's product descriptions, whether that's product images, SEO tags, all things that are going to ultimately downstream contribute to how can I bring in more people to my storefronts or my sites, and how can I ultimately convert them at higher rates?
As we're, like I said, about a week away from one of what I consider one of the main or major kind of shopping days of the year now, um, are there things that customers like the ones you have using your Commerce Cloud stuff? Are there things that they could do like today to be able to take advantage of something next week, to be able to be in a better position to take advantage of what people are going to do a lot of shopping over the next 2 days, whatever. I think it's the 16th, 17th. Are there things that they could do right now that could put them in a better position to take advantage of the kind of the shopping fever people are going to have, online shopping fever for the most part?
I mean, when you think of Prime Day, right, it's a great halo effect for brands and retailers that are not Amazon, right? They get this drafting effect from all the traffic that's going to Amazon. And as they're trying to figure out, do these products resonate with me or not, they look at other retailers. So it's a great opportunity for them to see increased traffic to their site. And I think the thing that I would say is the thing I'd recommend is now's the time to experiment, right? Find some low performing parts of your site, maybe even regions. Now start doing some experiments with what you can actually use in terms of, guided shopper experiences like our Shopper Copilot for Commerce. Potentially even if you have out of region teams who are not staffed well, maybe that's a great opportunity to start using some of our merchandiser AI around our merchant Copilot. So those are both the areas that I would, guide customers, because it's low risk, right? You're getting this net new traffic that I think the likelihood to convert is fairly low, but it's an opportunity to start doing some split testing to really understand how effective is the AI that we're potentially using. How can we optimize that from these experiences and get it to a place where it's going to drive highly converting experiences?
How effective have customers been so far leveraging the analytics that are at their disposal, leveraging the AI that's at their disposal now, compared to maybe even a couple of years ago?
I mean, I think it depends on who you're talking to. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing and the biggest part of our strategy is that, historically analytics has been entirely segmented from app users, right? It's a downstream thing. Once I use my app, I want to understand how it performs, but it's really not at the center, I think, of most commerce folks' minds. And it's becoming a bigger emphasis because, one, companies like Salesforce are producing better analytics focused around things like product intelligence, things like shopper intelligence, understanding your shoppers better. Also, dashboards and reports that highlight how effective is the AI you're using, right, in terms of overall conversions. I think when you team that up with the other personalization elements that commerce and other vendors are delivering, it only empowers AI to be more effective and more highly converting.
One of the big areas, particularly kind of at the beginning and all throughout the pandemic, uh, that became really important from a commerce perspective was the whole area of supply chain management and being able to kind of let people know or give people a good idea of not only what to buy, but when to expect it if they do buy it. How has that changed, or has that gained any more importance, or how is the kind of the platforms like yours? How are they helping folks with that aspect of the commerce piece of the puzzle?
It's still highly critical, right? Like if you ask the question, why do people buy from Amazon? It's because they know they can get most products in general, but they also know that they can get them at the very least within 2 days or less. So if you apply that same principle to any other retailer, their expectations are high. They expect to be able to find a broad set of products and be able to get them in 2 days or less. So if you can't offer that, you're really struggling to compete, not just with Amazon, but I think with everyone. So having that visibility to inventory, having that ability to convey to your customers of expected shipping timelines is key. So commerce is highly invested in that with our omni-channel inventory as part of our order management product, as well as delivery estimation is something we have on our roadmap. So it's a really big deal, and it's something that no one should overlook, because ultimately that is your potentially biggest barrier to conversion. And if you can give customers the sense that they can get the right products, they can get them in a timely manner, your ability to be able to convert regardless of site is high.
There's so much new data that wasn't really available even a couple of years ago that now is available due to platforms like yours and just the growth of digital data, as opposed to, I mean, we used to use, I remember going in the store and pulling out some cash and buying some stuff, and I would assume nobody knew what I bought because there was no digital footprint. Now you can't do anything without several digital footprints, which is a lot of data. So you have the analytics and you have the AI that runs on top of this new data. And in addition to the generative AI that everybody's kind of focused on, how do you help your customers understand where each of those things can help them out?
I think the biggest thing is and I'll break this down because it's multifaceted, right? The first is you have to provide a means for your customers to take that data from disparate sources and put it somewhere so that it's usable across any of the applications that they're using, right? I think doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's pretty critical. Now you made a good mention, right? There's Brent buying something with cash. There's potentially 10 different versions of Brent buying with a credit card, gift card, all those different things. And so being able to take all that data and apply some kind of identity resolution on top of it and have that core unified profile is also, I think, a key ingredient for success here. I think the next step is how can you provide capabilities that are going to make for these interactions that are engaging, whether it's commerce, whether it's service, whether it's sales. You should make every experience tailored to that person. And the only way that you can do that is starting with that overall data in the org, make sure you know who you're talking to, and then disseminate that from like a segment or personalization capabilities based experience so that you're ultimately getting the person to do the behavior that you want. For commerce, that's obviously making a purchase. For sales, that could be moving from a lead into an opportunity where you're now having a meeting booked. For service, it could be proactively deflecting that interaction to a knowledge source or other resource that's ultimately going to reduce the overall servicing costs for that organization. So I think for us, that answer clearly is Data Cloud, right? Which orchestrates all of those different things across all of our different applications. And I think the last one is anyone with enough money and imagination can do a lot of these projects. So the ability to deliver that as a solution where there's time to value and making it easy to implement is also, I think, like the last mile that's really, really important to our customers. And I'd imagine really customers globally.
How is, like, the relationship between marketing and commerce evolved, let's say, as the last year and a half has progressed and more and more of these things that you just talked about are starting to be put in play. How is that changing the relationship between marketing and commerce? How is it making it easier to do things in real time? Are they customers or companies still trying to figure it out? I'm just so interested because it seems like as Gen AI and AI proper, so to speak, gets deeper and deeper ingrained in organizations, it's changing the relationships between the different functions. And marketing, commerce, they go hand in hand. But how has that even changed as more and more people start getting heavily more involved in the Gen AI stuff?
I mean, it's. I think the best analogy I can think of here is like it's the cousin you know and like, and you spend a lot of time with, but you're still different people. The relationship is getting closer, right? Because these capabilities are able to be armed to a single persona, right? The concept of a commerce merchant creating a promotion, which they then activate via a marketing cloud campaign, is a real thing, right? We're working with Marketing Cloud to be able to do that. But it gets complicated once you get into certain verticals, certain industries, because the concept of having commerce persona do some of these actions is positive, but it's also not without risk, right? Marketing wants to be able to review copy, content, all the other particulars. So I think you're seeing this convergence both in product organizations at Salesforce. You're seeing convergence within customers themselves because they know that marketing and commerce have to work more jointly. And ultimately, I think it's going to drive better outcomes for both Salesforce, right? We're working closer and not having disparate solutions across commerce and marketing, but also for our customers, right? They're going to be able to more jointly plan these things together and have greater outcomes. I don't know. I might make even like the bold statement, like maybe these two things begin to fully merge over 5 to 10 years in the future, because if you can think about it, personalization on a commerce storefront is marketing, right? At its core. So I'm sure there's marketers and commerce folks who would totally disagree with that statement. But that being said, there's a strong convergence, and it's obviously because there's a lot of overlap, a lot of shared use cases, and you want those two groups to be bought in so that you're effectively going to be able to deliver the results that they're expected to deliver.
Are the content creators that are creating content specifically to further commerce initiatives, how are they kind of on the leading edge? Are they a little further out ahead of the folks who are just kind of more hands down commerce people at this point?
I think it depends on the organization. I think what I'm seeing is it's really dependent on that. From a content creation perspective, that's kind of a shared entity between most organizations, right? It's who owns the PIM, who owns the DAM. They're typically the ones who are driving that content creation. And for the most part, content creation is still largely done through outsourcing, through very, very manual operations. So I think that both parts of those organizations stand to benefit from those optimizations, but I'm not seeing anyone that's further ahead than the other. I think if we were to say one's ahead, it's probably marketing in some respects, mostly because they've been spending the past 5+ years evaluating unified customer platforms, as well as other new personalization expectations, which then inform their commerce counterparts because they have to be deployed via the commerce apps, the commerce portfolio.
We talked a lot about data and how much more is available and all different kinds of it and how it can be used. But from like the privacy and responsibility perspective, how does your platform help companies manage that, make sure they stay on the right side of, responsible use of all this data as they try to, engage in and create transactions, basically?
I mean, as you know, trust is the cornerstone and our number one core value. So everything we do goes through rigorous reviews, not just of product and engineering, but also of our counterparts in ethics. So we've built Data Cloud and Data Cloud for Commerce from the ground up so that it supports, ethics as well as just overall transparency. I think as a whole, Salesforce is operated under the premise that your data is not our data, it is not our products, right? And so the way that we manage our customers' data in the past is the same way that we will do that in the future. That's why we built the trust layer within our platform for generative AI to ensure that any possible data that we're using that even touches an LLM, that none of that is going to be able to be used for further training. So there's that. I think when you look at Data Cloud as a platform overall, it's an evolution across different technologies, but more importantly, it's an evolution from technologies that were kind of dangerous back in the day, right? So if you remember DMPs, you could stitch together first party, second party, third party data. And even if Brent was on my site anonymous, I knew it was Brent, right? And so that was something where the clear possible violations of ethics were pretty visible. And it's something that we slowly moved away from because it was not in alignment with our core values. It was not in alignment with where our customers and I think partners wanted to be. And so that's foundational in terms of our functionality, is that we're going to do everything we can to personalize it, but we will not do anything to jeopardize your brand or your data, as well as do anything that might jeopardize you legally within the execution of your software.
Mike, this has been a really great conversation. And as I think even beyond Prime Day, let's talk about the fourth quarter this year, the shopping season. What should customers of your platform, anybody who's looking to do online retail, what can they do right now to set themselves up to have the best fourth quarter they can have? Particularly using some of the tools that everybody is talking about. Are there certain things or certain ways that they can start right now to put in place so that they optimize their fourth quarter for this year?
I mean, I think the feedback or guidance I would give is there's a lot of viable technology out there, and you as an organization should be arming yourself with that in the fourth quarter and beyond. You should use the fourth quarter as an opportunity to grow into these net new capabilities, which in a lot of ways provide net new channels for growth. And you should be doing this not just because it's going to benefit you as an organization in both learning and potential growth, but your competition is doing this, right? Everyone is up late at night trying to figure out where they're going to put their investments both this year, next year, and beyond. Most organizations have already spent a fair amount of investments on the service side, right? How can I automate service interactions, right? It's low risk, high value. Now, a lot of organizations are like, all right, we've solved that. We are able to be prepared for holiday this season. We'll be able to manage our service costs. But where's the conversation on growth, right? That should be the next cornerstone of like, okay, we've already created this experience. We've deployed it on the same channels that these customers are reaching out to us for service. Let's expand this. Let's let customers be able to discover new products, be able to get recommendations on those products, add those products to cart, and use this as a new vehicle for growth. So my recommendation to them is evaluate the AI shopping assistants so that you can have the scale you need for the holiday season, and you can ultimately draw more people to your brand in a digital fashion, as opposed to saying, come down to our store at the mall or come down to this location. To me, that is the advice. And I think the best bet for most organizations to really get the most out of this Q4.
And just on the flip side of that, what if you don't do this? Maybe you still don't see it as valuable, or you just aren't sure. What's the potential impact if you don't do some of the things you originally talked about?
I mean, I think, when we think about like how folks are evaluated in this space, it's much more black and white, right? It's what were the financial results this year versus last year. And so I would not want to be in a conference room and not hit my number and then have to explain why. And the most obvious question that's going to get raised by anyone is, well, did you think about doing AI guided shopping? Did you think about doing, any countless number of different enhancements on the AI side? So, yeah, I think I hope folks are listening, and hopefully it resonates with them, because if I'm focused on Q4, I would hope that you've already got some plans in place. You're ready to experiment. You're ready to grow, and ultimately position yourself not just for Q4, but like all of FY25 as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for taking the time to really chop that up, because I feel like in some instances I hear so much more about, and you even brought it up around the service side, and starting to hear a little bit more around the sales and marketing from more of a content creation perspective, but kind of the nuts and bolts of commerce today, and hearing it from somebody like you who has a platform with lots of customers in the middle of this. This is really great. So thank you for taking the time to do this. But before I let you go, I just sounded like Frankie Beverly right there. Hey, wait a minute. Where did that come from? Although Frankie's good. All right. So you already kind of got hinted about what's going to happen, because our mutual friend Anita Chung kind of briefed you. Can't do that anymore.
It is her job. In her defense, it is her job.
All right. So do you have a favorite NFL team?
Sure do. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, born and raised in upstate New York. So, yeah, it's the best of times and the worst of times, I think, is the best way to categorize being a Bills fan.
I didn't know we were getting into Dickens here, but okay. No, there is only one wrong answer to that, and Buffalo is definitely not it. Buffalo Bills, hey, I'm all for them. The only wrong answer to that question would have been the New England Patriots.
So I have a T-shirt that I was thinking about wearing, but I decided not to, which is I'm a fan of the Buffalo Bills and whoever is beating the New England Patriots. So we are fully aligned, my friend.
We are. That you are guaranteed to come back, man. And wearing that T-shirt, please. I would love to see that. It's having lost 2 Super Bowls to those dudes.
As long as we can get Bill Patterson in that experience as well, so he can see that T-shirt, that would be perfect.
Yes. Yeah. I think Bob Stutz would enjoy that as well. But anyway, Mike, thank you so much for doing this. Maybe I'll get a chance to see you up close and personal at Dreamforce in a couple of months.
Yeah, I'd love that, man. Let's talk.
Awesome. All right. So thank Mike. Thank you. And I will see you not tomorrow, because we're kind of on hiatus with the CRM players, since the venerable Paul Greenberg is or traveling to Newfoundland. He's going to be up doing whatever Newfoundlanders do for the next couple of weeks. So we'll be on hiatus, but you might see me pop up somewhere before then. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. I will see you later.